doesn't know, a woman who may not even be alive, her mother. Back in April 1975, Jen was caught up in the dying days of the Vietnam War. Just 10 days old, abandoned, a baby in a cardboard box. But she was saved and flown to Australia in Operation Baby Lift, the youngest orphan ever resettled here. Now, 30 years on, she's returned to the land of her birth, convinced she'll find her long-lost mother. A hopeless quest, you might think. Perhaps, but sometimes miracles do happen. Today, Ho Chi Minh City is a world away from the catastrophic war that ended 30 years ago. It's a world Melbourne kindergarten teacher Jen Cito knows nothing about, but she's returned here to the city she was born in to track down her birth mother.
When the kiddies at school say, "I want my mummy," and I just say, "Yeah," and they cry and everything, I say, "Yeah, me too." And they look at me and they go, "Really? Do you want your mummy?" And I say, "Yeah." Because they don't know.
On the other side of the city, Melbourne mother of three, Kim Page, is nearing the end of her search for the brother she thought had died in the war.
I'm really actually shaking. I really don't know what to say, and I really don't know what my reaction will be.
These two Australian women are orphans of the Vietnam War, finally trying to piece together lives and families ripped apart by one of the most brutal conflicts of the 20th century. Back then, Ho Chi Minh City was known as Saigon, the capital of South Vietnam. In April 1975, the city was completely surrounded by the North Vietnamese Communist Army. America was on the verge of its most humiliating military defeat. Escape was the only option.
I think that my mother and father gave me up for adoption or just put me in an orphanage. Maybe they may have just left me. They might have been running and dropped me out of a basket and then kept running. I have no idea what the circumstances were.
On the 30th of April, the rout was complete when the North Vietnamese tanks crashed through the gates of Saigon's presidential palace. Being here now, you can't help but wonder what it must have been like 30 years ago. The fear, the chaos, the tension, people literally fleeing for their lives. But it wasn't just American soldiers and civilians who were escaping Saigon. There were also the innocent victims of the war. Children, babies, some just weeks old, who were evacuated in one of the most extraordinary military missions ever undertaken. It was known as Operation Baby Lift.
30 years ago, I came out as a 10-day-old baby from Saigon to Melbourne on the second airlift of Operation Baby Lift, and my umbilical cord was still attached and I was transported in a cardboard box.
She was the youngest at 10
She was
days
10
old.
days old. But luckily, I guess, had been breastfed, so she was fairly well nourished. So she was one of the healthier ones.
Still with her umbilical cord attached.
Yes, that's correct.
Nurse Joe Lucas was part of Operation Baby Lift, the emergency evacuation of thousands of orphans to countries like Australia. She flew into Saigon just days before the city fell. You were entering a place that was on a knife edge.
Yes. In the end, it just got down to the fact that, is it better to be dead or alive? And I'm fairly sure that a lot of those babies wouldn't have made it.
You really felt it was imperative that you went in there?
I thought it was a good thing to do, and I still don't regret doing it, even though a lot of people said you shouldn't take people out of their own culture for whatever reason. I don't think most of these little bumps would have survived.
75 orphans were on the tarmac waiting to be rescued that day. some desperately ill from malnutrition and dehydration.
One baby did die before we even left Saigon, and a couple were very sick on the plane.
The RAF Hercules flew to the Thailand capital of Bangkok to link up with a Qantas jet set up to fly the orphans to Melbourne.
The RAAF personnel came out carrying boxes, cardboard boxes. And when the first box came up the stairs, I said to the RAAF guy, we really don't want any more catering. And he said, just look in the box. And when I looked in the box, there were 2 children, head to feet. And that's when it sunk in. This was not going to be a normal flight.
Bob Hills was the chief steward on the Qantas flight that day. He remembers how the mission was almost grounded by red tape when Thai immigration officials demanded the names of every single orphan before they would let the plane take off.
And I thought, this is great. This is just what we need right now. So I went up to the flight deck and spoke to Captain Alan Bones, explained the situation to him, and he said, let's use some Qantas initiative here. Let's get around this. Donald Duck made his way to Melbourne, so did Mickey Mouse, so did Sydney H. Bridge. Whatever name we could come up with, we came up with it.
You didn't know where you were going?
No, not at all. I was just told by the lady that took me out, Barbara, that I was flying to a strange land called Australia, and that we got taught an English song.
And what was that song?
My, what a beautiful day.
That's all you knew?
That's all I knew.
Today, the remarkable legacy of Operation Baby Lift lives on in many ways. Nearly 500 Vietnamese orphans were brought to Australia, and for most, it's been a great success.
Come on, Kim.
Kim Page married and now has 3 daughters. At Jen Sito's wedding 2 years ago, many of the rescue crew, including Joe Lucas and Bob Hills, were there.
Thank you for being part of our lives.
But for Jen, the most important person in her life was missing. Is this a huge craving that you have to find your mum, your biological?
It's huge. It's so deep in my core. Oh, I'm going to cry now. Just this deep sadness.
Realistically, what are your chances of finding your biological mother?
And a cliche needle in a haystack, I think it's very, very slim. But I have such a drive to have a go anyway. I guess that could be the Australian mentality, have a go, that I won't feel satisfied unless I give it my best shot.
You go?
Yes, you.
Okay, let's do it.
Okay.
Nice and slowly. Which brings us back to Vietnam. Jen's search for her mother begins by trying to find the orphanage she was handed over to when just days old.
Don't hesitate. You'll get run over.
So this is it.
Yeah. Wow.
But there's a setback. The orphanage is now a military compound. Jen, though, isn't about to give up.
I'm looking for my birth family, my birth mother, my mother. Yeah, that's me. Yeah, baby. Me is the baby. Yeah. Can you help me find my mum? You take it. Yeah, thank you. That's me. And that's me as a baby. I'm 10 days old. 10 days.
You really live in hope, don't you?
Yeah, well, that's why I'm here. You know, if I didn't have hope, then I wouldn't be here.
As Jen Sito's quest begins, Kim Page's search is about to end. This really is a momentous occasion for you, isn't it?
It is. It's something I never thought I would do. Sorry.
Kim was a 6-year-old orphan when she was flown out to Australia. She grew up thinking that her brother Lan was killed during the war. But then last year, Kim received the most amazing news. An email from her old orphanage containing a photo of a little boy and a message he'd survived.
I knew straight away. There was no doubt. I mean, I opened it when I stood up and I had to sit down.
It was her brother Lan. She learnt he was living and working on a rubber plantation about 2 hours' drive from Ho Chi Minh City. In a cruel twist, Lam thought Kim had perished in the ill-fated Operation Babylift flight headed for America, which crashed soon after takeoff, killing more than 200 children and nurses.
As a kid, I was told that it crashed. It had been concluded that Kim was dead and not alive.
And so brother and sister had each grown up thinking they were the only ones in their family to survive the war.
Hesitant on my feelings, knowing that all these years being apart 30 years, where do we start? When I say land and vice versa, I've got that language barrier. It's hard.
Are you nervous?
Yes, very.
Finally, after 30 long-lost years, they're reunited.
Long thế. As soon as I set my eyes on her, I knew she was my little sister, and I'm very happy, very emotional. My heart is overwhelmed.
Jen Sito, meanwhile, is still chasing any lead she can, trying to find any records about her birth, hoping to interest local media in her story.
And I was 10 days old when I left. 10 days.
Do you think your mother is alive?
Yeah, I'm hoping. And if she's not, I'm hoping to find siblings or some birth relative that can tell me more about her.
Jen Sito knows the odds are against her, but she intends to keep searching. Her journey is not over. But for Kim Page, her search has finished. She's found her brother and a family she never knew existed.
Are you wife?
Dạ,
wife?
dạ của anh.
This your wife? Yeah. Hello.
How are you?
Đây là anh gái lớn của anh.
Daughter? Yeah. Yeah. It's my husband, Philip. Chồng của anh.
Chào Vũ.
Chào Vũ. Hey, you want a shoulder ride? You come here. You come here. Ready?
Do you feel completed today to meet your nieces, your nephews, your brother?
Yes, in a way I feel complete. When I did my family tree, when I was young, I only did my adopted family side, and when I got down to my name, it was the end. Knowing that now I found land in his family, I can join on the branches.
What's smile in Vietnamese?
Goi. It's a goi or goi?
Goi.
Goi.
Nice photo.